Hi, this is Elena Roché and my daily reflections with Da Vinci. I'm using a treatise on painting by the master himself.
Proportion 1. What the young student in painting ought in the first place to learn. The young student should, in the first place, acquire a knowledge of perspective to enable him to give to every object its proper dimensions, after which it is requisite that he be under the care of an able master to accustom him by degrees to a good style of drawing the parts. Next, he must study nature in order to confirm and fix in his mind the reason of those precepts which he has learnt. He must also bestow some time in viewing the works of various old masters to form his eye and judgment, in order that he may be able to put in practice all that he has been taught.
Footnote. This passage has been by some persons much misunderstood and supposed to require that the student should be a deep proficient in perspective before he commences the study of painting. But it is a knowledge of the leading principles only of the perspective that the author here means, and without such a knowledge, which is easily to be acquired, the student will inevitably fall into errors, as gross as those humorously pointed out by Hogarth in his frontispiece to Kirby's perspective. In this first step, Da Vinci outlines a structured curriculum or methodical approach for a young student beginning the study of drawing and painting, emphasizing a specific order or priorities. The essential first step, perspective. Leonardo insists that the first thing a student must learn is perspective. He has a purpose for it: to give every object its proper dimensions, meaning correctly representing objects in 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional surface: depth, scale, and proportion. For clarification, the author who translated Da Vinci's words is noting that the author, or Leonardo da Vinci, does not mean that the student must become a deep proficient or an expert first. They only need to acquire the leading principles or the basics of perspective. Without these basics, the student will commit obvious fundamental errors in their drawing. And I have to tell you, there are plenty of contemporary traditional artwork that I see. Some are even award-winning, that do not have the basic fundamental principles of perspective obeyed when they really mean to obey. So the role of the master: after acquiring the basics of perspective, the student needs an able master. That means you can't just learn from books or on your own, or in today's world from videos. There is also a purpose for that. The master is required to train the student in a good style of drawing the parts. By parts, he means various parts of the body or objects. This goes beyond the mechanical rules of perspective and teaches the student how to render details, technique, and form, like drawing hands, faces, drapery, etc., effectively and aesthetically. The 3 pillars of continuous study. The passage then describes the 3 continuous areas of study necessary to solidify and advance the student's skill. Study nature. The student must study nature directly. This is crucial for confirming and fixing the reason behind the rules, the precepts, learned from the master. This step ties theory to reality, grounding the artistic rules in the observation of the physical world. View of old masters. The student must spend time viewing the works of various old masters. The purpose: this trains the eye and judgment. It helps the student develop an aesthetic sense, understand composition, color, and technique, and learn from the greatest practitioners in history. And I have to tell you, Leonardo da Vinci lived in the 15th century, Who were the masters for him? That is an interesting avenue to explore. Practice. The ultimate goal of all the steps, perspective, mentorship, nature study, and master study, is to enable the student to put in practice all that he has been taught. Knowledge is useless without the ability to execute the work. In summary, the passage advocates for a balanced education that progresses from theory, basic perspective, to technique under a master. And finally, to refinement through nature study and art history, all leading you to skillful execution. I'm Elena Roché. For me, the words of Leonardo da Vinci aren't just historical quotes. They are a lived reality. I'm an award-winning plein air painter and educator. My journey began in Moscow over 34 years ago. I studied under the direct disciples of the great 19th century Russian masters. Through me, that unbroken chain of classical knowledge, stretching back over 100 years, is passed on to the next generation right here in Sherman Oaks in California. In the United States, this rigorous academic tradition has largely been lost. Most students are taught how to express, how to emote on canvas, but few are taught how to see, think, perceive the world like a master artist. I am changing that. I brought the original Russian academic curriculum with me, and I teach my students ages 10 to 18 exactly as the masters were taught. We go step by step through the laws of nature, space, form, light, and composition, our relationship to the world, and how to best portray what we mean to portray on canvas. But this isn't just for future professional artists. By mastering this method, my students develop a rare level of discipline, spatial intelligence, and a profound way of observing the world that will serve them in any career, from engineering to medicine. I am teaching them the way of the masters, starting young to achieve mastery by adulthood. If you would like to have your child gain this unique, solid foundation, my school is in Sherman Oaks, which is in the greater LA area. You can find the enrollment link in the description below. If you value preserving these nearly lost traditions, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next Daily Reflections with Da Vinci.